Let's take a look at how to install a field seam in a mechanically attached system using Genflex Fabric Reinforced Membrane, or FRM. After the first membrane panel is laid out, allow it to relax for 30 minutes. Then, install appropriate membrane attachment following the system guidelines. Lay out subsequent membrane panels to allow for a 7-inch overlap. This will create the proper seam area. Allow the additional sheets to relax for 30 minutes before seaming. With the panels properly overlapped, mark the bottom panel 1/2 inch from the edge of the top panel. This will allow for a 1/8 to 1/4 inch of exposed tape when the seam is completed. Fold the top membrane panel back. Next, stir the Gen Prime thoroughly. It should look uniform in color with no marbling or sediment at the bottom of the container. Using your layout marks as a guide, apply the Gen Prime to the seaming areas of both membrane panels. Any heavily soiled areas must be cleaned using standard cleaning procedures prior to the application of Gen Prime. Allow the primer to flash off. Push the primer with your finger to determine if it has flashed off sufficiently. If it has flashed off, it will not come off onto your finger. To install the seam tape, position the edge of the release paper on the layout marks. Press the tape with your hand to adhere it to the bottom membrane panel. With the release paper still on the seam tape, hand roll the entire strip of seam tape to ensure good contact between the membrane and seam tape. Next, mate the seam. Allow the top membrane panel to fall freely over the seam area. Check the tape reveal to be sure there is 1/4 to 1/2 inch of tape exposed. Pull the release paper from the tape away from the seam while brushing your hand across the top membrane panel at a right angle to mate the seam. Hand roll the entire seam, first at a right angle toward the outer edge and then along the length of the splice. Be sure to check for good tape contact at any factory seams. Complete the detail by caulking seam edges at seam tape to seam tape splices and any place the completed seam creates a T-joint. Seam caulk application must extend a minimum of 3 inches beyond any T-joints or tape splices in all directions.